Welcome, Internet, to the PixelPlay Podcast, your weekly gaming podcast hosted by gamers for gamers. I am one of your hosts, Kaylan, aka Catastrophe, joined as always by my co-host, Adam at CS Radical and Chris at Jin and Chris. This week's episode, we're going to be doing a remake showdown suggested by one of our fans. If you like that and you want to hear more, we post this podcast every Wednesday, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, wherever you get your podcast, and on YouTube and Spotify if you want to see our lovely faces as we do that. With that being said, gentlemen, before we get into it, how is everyone doing? Chris, I saw on our Discord that you picked up a gem of a game, my game of the year, I think, last year.
Yeah,
you're finally playing Kingdom Hearts 3.
No.
Kaylan's game of the year. Joke's never gonna get old, ever. Sadly, I don't know if I played Final Fantasy 16 this last week. And it's not because I don't want to, it's because I got extremely distracted by the Steam summer sale for everybody who's on PC and clearly knows what that is.
You distracted Steam? Impossible.
Oh my god.
Gotta do some
it used
on
to
the
be
toilet.
bad. Yeah, it used to be bad when I just had my gaming PC, but now that I have also the Steam Deck, I'm a lost cause. Like, I am a lost cause. I actually picked up 2 games, and it's because of both of you, actually. I picked up one game that both of you have gone on and on and on about. So, Kaylan, yes, I picked up Cult of the Lamb, and Adam, I picked up Crosscode.
Nice.
Because you both talked about them so much. Even before I was on the podcast, you guys wouldn't stop talking about this before I even came on.
It was my game of the year last year, Cult of the Lamb.
Yeah. And I played about an hour of both. I want to just make sure it ran well on the Steam Deck versus like if I actually had to go and play on the PC and everything. First, they run flawlessly. So if anybody has a Steam Deck and wants to pick up these games, I only played an hour and I was already hooked to both games. So I can tell exactly what both of you are talking about. They're just like so like the gameplay, it's so solid, like instant response, everything like that. I looked up if like, oh, I really want to play this portably, probably these 2 games, like this is very much my like not sitting at my desk or sitting at the TV, like on the couch and playing these games. I was like, the Switch, I have an OLED version, better battery life, maybe I'll pick it up there. I highly suggest everybody get it on the Steam Deck if you have for some reason both. I'm sure not everybody does, but in case you do, Steam Deck was like by far the winner. Like these games are running like they would on like a console, just on a smaller screen, obviously. And man, that like pure just instant response, great gameplay for both. And I can't wait to actually dive into them. But then I got distracted by another game I picked up on last year's Steam Summer Sale called Time Spinner, which is like a indie game Metroidvania. Really great Metroidvania. If you want to just like scratch that itch, but also be done within 7 hours, that's the like beautiful pixel art, great Metroidvania, perfect for any kind of portable play. If anybody has a Switch or a Steam Deck or anything like that. I only saw this game because it was on Summer Games Done Quick last year. And it was like, obviously they beat it a lot quicker than that 7 hours, but I played pretty normal and was even trying to unlock all the maps and stuff. And it took me about 7 hours with like both separate endings and everything. So I got distracted before I got distracted away from my original distraction. So that's my life. That's how it goes. But
such is the plight of Chris.
I was going to say the important question, Chris, I have is, have you gotten to the part where you had to name your cult?
No, I got to the part just where your first cult follower, I guess, I'd rescued them, got to that area, and my mission is to go talk to them. And that's when I
just
stopped.
about to get good.
Yeah, because I knew it was just about to get good. And I was like, I know what's about to happen. I'm going to have to start taking care of this place. I'm going to get addicted to that. And because I'm playing portably, it's not even like I'll walk away from the TV, because I'm just walking away with a Steam Deck in my hand.
Yeah.
And I'm just moving to a new spot to keep playing. That's the same thing with Crosscode. I got into the point where all of a sudden it's like starting to reveal like, oh, what's going on? Do you have amnesia? Blah, blah, blah. And like all this stuff. I'm like, no, it's going to get real addicting real quick too. So I stopped both. I'm probably going to play Cult of the Lamb first because it's a shorter game.
Yep.
I have a plugin on my Steam Deck that connects to the website How Long to Beat, which is my favorite place to go because my backlog doesn't allow for games that are too long. And so when I go into the game page, it actually shows like the actual, like, here's how long it would be to beat it, to 100% it, all of that. Cult of the Lamb was reasonable. Crosscode was like 55 hours. I was like, this will be after Cult of the Lamb because I'll do that, get through it, and then I'll go into the other game that'll take a lot of my time. So I should be starting it probably end of this month. I'll do Cult of the Lamb, and then after a couple weeks, I'll hop into Crosscode. So I'll fill you both in.
I am curious to see what you name your cult. Do you have like any ideas, or like do you have like a theme you're going with?
So
no?
I usually, whenever I have like an island or a character I need to name, I usually go with Jin or something related to Jin because of Jin and Chris. I used to just put Chris, and I realized how boring that was. So even in Animal Crossing, my island is like Jin Isle or something like that, which a lot of people are like, "Oh, Alcohol Island." I'm like, "No, Jin, yeah, whatever." Yeah, so I'll probably think of a name that relates to Jin.
I mean, as long as you're not doing the New World Order, because that's trademarked.
Yeah, New World Order has already been taken.
Or at least Kaylan better be on that shit.
New World Order is a thing. I've got it. Like I've got precedence. It's fine.
Hey, no, it'll be like Jin and something, like Jin and Sacrifice. I don't know. Like it'll be something silly.
Just make your cult alcohol and just like make the whole like it's just alcoholics.
It's just alcohol. That's the whole thing. It's yeah. Actually, I kind of like that idea.
Isn't there a Jin that's named after a lamb?
Oh my gosh! Now I have to look that up if there is.
I think is it gin? I think it is Lamb's gin. Yeah, it's called Lamb. Oh, it's Lamb's rum.
Damn.
Dang. Though I just found a recipe for a delicious roast lamb gin. That looks nice.
Oh, you're welcome.
Welcome to the Bacon Eat podcast.
Yeah, I did look.
Worth it.
Yeah, the brand is Lamb's, and it's a rum brand, so we're almost there.
We're getting
so
there.
Close.
If you guys are listening and you guys want to submit suggestions, put it in the comments of what Chris should name his cult after.
Man, if only the game was called Cult of the Cow, you could have called it Beef Eater.
It would have been good. But then we would have not had New World Order, and that's
true.
I'm gonna be honest. I sometimes just sit like I'll be just doing nothing, and I just remember that I called it New World Order, and I just kind of like chuckled to myself. It's one of
you just like to remember it.
I just like the things I'm proud of in my life is like my son and naming like my cult and Cult of the Lamb. Like it's a back and forth. They alternate between number one sometimes.
Wow. Yeah. No, I believe it. I'd believe it.
It's one of those times I feel like I
hope a certain someone isn't watching the show ever.
No,
Dad,
of course
can I
not.
watch your old episodes?
No, he's not gonna watch any of this. This is like the equivalent of like when our dads were like, I was in a band once and nobody gave a crap. The podcast is like the is like the 70s version of a band. It's like this is what millennials do.
I was referring to Jenny Bezos, but sure, we can go with that.
He's not watching this either. No one in my family gives a crap what I'm doing here. They're just like, oh, you're doing a podcast? Great. I got an hour to myself. See ya. No one's listening to this. Adam, how are you doing this week?
Doing good. We're on the home stretch with doing all the Trails games all over again. Cold Steel 3 is in the book, so I'm now on Cold Steel 4, and I'm pretty sure I'm at least halfway through Trails to Azure, so we're almost done. We're almost on to the new game that came out just earlier this week, so it'll finally be happening. I also am finally getting that standalone video that I said I was going to do like months ago on the show. It's finally in production. It is, of course, based on Trails because I figure, all right, now that we have the JRPG king among us, I figure I got to start making more content for him to watch. So the first video, it was supposed to be out, honestly, at the time we were recording, but Adobe Premiere decided that it wanted to crash as I rendered the video, and I lost like half of the editing I did because I'm an idiot and didn't save before I did that.
Oh,
I know you're coming from my crown of JRPG biggest fan, but you're gonna have to do more than just make some videos. Like,
well, you're gonna
swipe of the king, you can't miss.
Then say you're the owner of the New World Order when you don't make any fucking t-shirts, bro.
I'll go tomorrow. I'm gonna go buy some plain white t-shirts, and I'm gonna just get some
and just
marker,
draw like a shitty NWO look.
Yeah, that's it. That's all I'm gonna do.
You know what? That's still more effort than not doing.
That's
anything.
the level of professionalism that we strive for here at the New World Order.
But yeah, probably sometime
shirts aren't even made of wool. They're just made of like cotton. Polyester blend.
Sometime this week I'll have this video probably done and put out there. So by the time that we're talking next week, I should have a video up there. It's hovering around 16 minutes. They are not going to be that long going forward because I realized how much work that was going to be. But hey, that's what a proof of concept is for. You figure out what you want to do. I don't want to write out a script, record the audio, and edit a 16-minute video again unless I have to. That was a lot of extra work.
Adam, how many games has this been?
It's 9 games, and then it'll be 10 when I start Reverie once I get through all the old games again.
And like 50 hours per game?
If I was a betting man and I took total hours in there, we're looking at probably 300 hours of gameplay, if not a little bit more than that.
If I could just apply your powers of gaming to my backlog, if you wouldn't mind actually just going through a whole bunch of them and applying them in hours.
In the last 6 months, I've maybe played 15 things altogether, and 9 of them are Trails games.
I'm so jealous of your childless lifestyles, both of you.
You made a choice, sir.
I know.
But yeah,
it's great. I love it, but I'm envious of the time you guys have when it comes to video games. I'm squeezing an hour here and there when I can.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely been great going through this again. Now that I have a much more detailed idea of what happens, playing Cold Steel a second time around has actually been a lot more fruitful. I just started the 4th game, and it immediately just starts shoehorning in old characters without missing a beat, and I'm like, oh wow, this feels way different now that I actually know the backstory of all of these people rather than just being like, I know you're from this. That's about as far as I know. And it's the same going in reverse. Now I'm in, because it's not really a spoiler, because if you play these games and you pay attention to the year when they mark how the calendar flips, you'll know Trails to Azure and Trails of Cold Steel literally are happening at the same time. So people are crossing over. So you start looking at people and be like, oh yeah, you're here. And then you see a thing happen. You're like, oh yeah, I remember hearing about this in passing with the NPCs. They were talking about this. Now you're actually seeing it happen. And you're going, oh, so that's what they spent 10 seconds talking about. And now you're playing 2+ hours worth to get the whole story of it. I'm like, I guess it could have been fine to play from the beginning up, but it's still an interesting way to go in different orders. And that's one of the key things I'll put in that video too, because there's an argument on how and when to play these games. And I'm basically saying, look, there's 3 arcs. Pick one, start from the first game. You're fine. You can play them in whatever order you want. You'll still get a decent bit of story from it. And if you really feel like you need to know a little bit more, YouTube is your friend. It won't take you long to find somebody making a good summary. You'll be fine. I hate the idea of because I've seen it on Reddit a bunch, especially when I look at people suggesting JRPGs. Whenever Trails comes up, you have a flood of people being like, oh, you got to start from Sky. And it's like, you can't just tell people to start 9 games ago. If they're saying hey, I see this Trails of Cold Steel thing, is that interesting? Just say yes. Just say yes. It's not hard.
Yeah.
I feel like people would figure out that when there's a game called Trails of Cold Steel 1, 2, and 3, and 4, they wouldn't just randomly start at Trails of Cold Steel 3.
To be fair, we also play other JRPGs like Final Fantasy, so...
Oh, true. Yeah. Kaylan, you got to play all 15 Final Fantasies before you continue with 16, all right?
Yeah, that's not happening.
Can you imagine fucking...
I'm very selective, and I'm very much a connoisseur of JRPGs, and I only play one, and that's Final Fantasy 16.
It's funnily enough, it also reminds me how much better at sticking to things Falcom is with Trails compared to Square with Final Fantasy, because Trails is now at technically 12 games if we count what's been released in Japan. Final Fantasy's only done technically 16 games. I know there's spin-offs and whatever else, but Falcom just goes, no. We're going to just do one thing really, really well. Square's all the things, and only about 10% of them work.
That is true.
Speaking of Final Fantasy, I am still working my way through that game. Summer's brutal in terms of everything that, commitments and stuff, so I'm not getting that much time to play it, but loving what I'm playing. Still loving the game, love the story, love the combat, love everything like that. Staying with my gripe that I had, it still has that hokey kind of soap opera-y dialogue JRPG, but it's not deterring me at all. I'm still loving the game. It's great. That's all I got to say. I'm not gonna say much more, but yeah, still loving it, still playing it.
JRPGs, if you ever were looking for serious voice acting, it just doesn't happen. That people, you can tell people try, they really try, but it just doesn't work.
Yeah,
Sorry, you give a
me that
story
doesn't.
about kids that start out rescuing a cat and then eventually fight God at the end. It's really hard to have a cohesive narrative that makes people give actual good acting performances. I'm just saying, The Last of Us would not work as a JRPG. It would go very cheesy, very fast. Because, like, about 2 hours into The Last of Us, there would be this random side mission where you'd find this random guy, and all he likes doing is fishing, and then you'll fish, and then all of a sudden you'll break out this giant dragon that just, for some reason, is in the lake. Like, it eventually just has to happen.
I always kind of, like, picture, like, the JRPG, like, and primarily, like, Final Fantasy, because that's the one I get exposure to the most, as kind of, like, telenovela-style stories with soap opera acting, and that's just the way I kind of like see it. Just the absurdness of the storyline with just
every character
cheesy,
just has to speak with like the utmost drama to everything they say.
Oh yeah.
If you're the lead protagonist, like, and you're part of a group, you always have to give the cheesy like Independence Day speech. You know, it's just an inevitability.
And there's always, for some reason, always like that just sound effect, the
It's something that people don't get past, and I understand why, but as someone who's watched so much anime, you just grow used to it. Because, yeah, it's a little weird if you've never played a JRPG before and you've only played Western games, and now all of a sudden you plug in Final Fantasy VII Remake, and every 5 seconds someone's just going,
yeah. It is
like,
so jarring.
It's just a lot of extra, like, sounds for dramatic value.
Yeah, and I find, like, it is still here with Final Fantasy 16, but it's not as, for whatever reason, as in your face. I don't know if it's the story's gripping me or whatever, but it's not as in your face as it is in other ones.
It's toned down in this compared to previous Final Fantasies for sure.
Yeah, there seems to be a lot less sighing and giggling. Especially, oh my god, especially girls. Almost everything has to be like a there's always that in there somewhere.
And there's always that one cliche where it's like something's going on and one person will kind of look and be like, could it be him? And then someone else will be like, huh? Did you say something? And they'll be like, no, I didn't. And then they continue.
Cliche where they're like talking to
who
themselves.
Who did you say that for?
And all of a sudden be like, what did you say? Oh, nothing.
Yeah.
Like, who's him? You know how much faster the story would go if you would just fucking talk to people? God damn. JRPG characters have like the worst social stigmas attached to them ever created.
Yeah.
And there's always... Go ahead. No.
I was just going to say, when it is that stereotype, like, why can't they be like, wait, did you say something? Yeah, that's my long-lost half-brother. He's actually an evil god.
They will literally speak their mind on everything else, but the one thing in the story that we have to make sure we hide because the plot hasn't... We're not at chapter 17 yet, guys. You can't reveal the secret.
Yeah.
Right. I was going to say, the other thing that there always is always like that one kooky, goofy looking like character, like the comic relief kind of thing, and it's just it's not there. I really appreciate this. This definitely feels more grounded, and
don't worry, we'll get you into Final Fantasy VII. You'll complain about Simba over and over again.
Is that Tony the Tiger?
Yeah.
All right.
Just keep putting in new names.
I don't know that many tigers.
You're gonna end up playing that game and loving it so much. That's gonna be the funny part. You're gonna be like, wow, this is like Final Fantasy 16, but in a different setting.
I mean, to be fair, if he plays that game and he does, and he actually finishes it, if we literally need to have like a sit down party and just talk about Chapter 9 when they go to the I can't remember what the name of the market town.
Oh yeah,
just that entire chapter.
Yeah.
Like either that or we just need to sit Kaylan in a room, strap him to a chair, and just force him to watch that because I don't know if he'd make it through that chapter.
Clockwork Orange style.
Yeah. I don't know if you make it through all the Japanese bullshit that chapter throws at you.
It's a lot. It is,
you guys are not selling this.
It's really great. It's the greatest.
I'm giving you guys an inch and you guys are taking a mile. I played one JRPG.
Though, like, we were talking in the Discord, like if we were gonna do a like our favorite missions in video games. That chapter legitimately is one of my all-time favorites because it's so fucking good. It is a lot of fun. It literally goes from like super cool to super fucking random to super funny to super badass again to super weird. Like it literally just keeps spinning that Price is Right wheel and keeps landing on like the extreme version of something, and it just keeps on going, and it's like, oh my god, they keep topping this. How do you keep getting better? And then the chapter
guys,
ends, and it goes right back to being normal again, and you're like, oh, I miss this.
Yeah.
I want to jump into this week's topic. This week actually is inspired or suggested by one of our listeners. So Teribo, I hope I'm pronouncing it right. We kind of asked our Discord, like, hey, what do you guys want to talk about? And they suggested, hey, why don't we talk about remakes? There's a lot going on. And I thought that was a great idea. And so I kind of wanted to do a fun little activity where we figure out what is the best remake in existence. So what we're going to do, guys, is we've all brought in our own titles of remakes that we thought of, that we like, that we've played, whatever. And I figure we'll do a 2 games enter, one leaves kind of situation. So we'll go around the table. One of us will name a game. One of us will bring another contender. We'll discuss who's played, like we'll discuss which ones we like, why we like them. We'll select one as a group, which one we like. And then once we go through the list, we'll have a idea of what is the best remake to play. Some ground rules. I'm open to suggestions. We can have some discussions about this. It's going to be a voting system. There's 3 of us and there's 2 games, so it should be pretty easy for us to like kind of decide that. I would make precedent that someone who has played both games vetoes someone who's only played one of the games. Do you guys agree with that?
Agreed.
Okay, cool. And then, we'll kind of do that. So if you haven't played the game, your vote's worth less. If you've played neither games, your vote's worth less than someone who's played one of them, and it's worth less, and that is worth less than someone who's played both games. Fair?
Fair.
Okay, cool. And
We'll
that's
make
just
it
in
up as we
situations
go at this point.
Yeah, we're gonna kind of make it up as we go. Now, the other thing, we're doing strict remakes. This is not remasters. This is not upgrades. This is just opening up a blank code page. I don't know how you make video games, but like you're opening a blank code page. You open Microsoft Word. You start typing in C++, whatever, from scratch.
And I mean, that's not necessarily going to be true for everything we list, because like some of them are literally carbon copies of the game that they're recreating, but they're still being made from scratch. Like it's not it's not like, for example, Link's Awakening was made any differently. They just completely made it with a fresh new set of
100%.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah, these can be brand new. Like they could be 1-for-1 copies. They could be changed, whatever. But the idea is that they are a game that is made off of the old one, but it's not using any of the original code. It is starting from scratch. In terms of criteria, do you guys want to go over some criteria of how we're doing this, like what we're putting preference on, or do you guys want to just kind of go in and make our own arguments as we go?
Probably as we go.
Okay.
Yeah,
cool.
I mean, it's really going to depend on what the matches are up against.
Okay, so let's do it. Adam, I think you have the longer list, so do you want to bring in your first contender?
All right, so let's start off with the best one I can possibly think of. GoldenEye 007 Reloaded. Okay, I was just kidding.
Hey, no, that's fine. Let's totally go throw in there.
No, we're not putting that in the ether because whatever we put it up against, I don't know. I'm trying to think if there's anything worse than that. Shit, maybe the 13 remake.
Save that for the end, and then maybe it'll beat out the main one, and we'll end up with GoldenEye.
All right, so what's your first one, Adam?
We're not going to do troll wins here, okay? So I'll pull out one that I think is a lot more underappreciated. I mean, if you're a PC gamer, you appreciate a lot, but I think it's one that's less talked about. The fan-made remake of Half-Life that was called Black Mesa.
Okay, what's your argument for that one, or like, do you want to talk about it, or just
it's taking a game that already like tested the boundaries back when it first came out and actually made it, playable for people in these days and age. Because I mean, look, I love Half-Life to death too, but you can't get me to play Half-Life 1, 2, or any of these, these days, because it's too antiquated now. It's the problem with a lot of games too that were 3D made. We've had this conversation on Cartridge and Quarters when that was still a thing back in the day, that just some eras do not age well. Whereas, like, say, the Super Nintendo era, like, I can still play Super Nintendo games like it's like they just came out. Those still work just fine for the most part. But, like, PC games and, like, console games in that era, it's not
late
easy
90s,
to play
early
them,
2000s
play them as
rough.
they are anymore. It's not easy.
No.
All right, so, Chris, what do you have? What are you putting up against Black Mesa?
Oh, if I've got to put it up against that?
I mean, we're going through all the games eventually, so it doesn't matter which one you
Yeah, I'm trying to think of something that would be... All right, you know what? I'm going to throw out Metal Gear Solid Twin Snakes.
Okay.
Ooh,
On
the GameCube one, nice.
The GameCube one, yes. Controversial. Ooh.
All right, so I'm gonna be honest. I've played the original Half-Life, but I've never played Twin Snakes. So I'm gonna let you guys kind of go and figure out yourselves, and I'll listen to your arguments. And if I need to be tiebreaker, I'll be tiebreaker.
All right. Well, I'll go with Twin Snakes. I'll obviously it was a good game in the sense that it took Metal Gear 1, which is a PS1 game. The graphics were obviously what they were. Metal Gear Solid 2 came out. Obviously, that was a huge hit with the gaming community, but also just because of the actual like quality of life improvements to the actual game itself over the first game. Kind of little more third person, a little bit better. And they kind of just took that engine, from what I can tell. Obviously, I'm not a coder, but took that idea of Metal Gear Solid 2 and remade the first game kind of in Metal Gear Solid 2's image graphically while keeping the first game. For me, I thought it was a great change from the first game. I still loved the first game, but obviously the Twin Snakes remake just made the graphics and everything that much better and a little bit more realistic, because it is Metal Gear. It is supposed to be kind of like a movie more than a game in a way, and it definitely helped bring it up to that versus the first game where you really had to use your imagination to feel like it was a movie sometimes.
Fair enough. Adam, what do you think? Are you still going with Black Mesa, or you think Twin Snakes is a
but
better
it's
option?
not necessarily like it really is it's a taste of what game you're into more. I mean, personally, I lean to Black Mesa because, again, first person shooter over a third person, which honestly, the old Metal Gear games have I like Metal Gear Solid, but I don't love them because for whatever reason, the way that those controlled back in the day for me, just it didn't stick very well. I didn't like them very much. So that always struggled with me. Black Mesa, I'll also add the extra edge to because it's a lot more recent. So it definitely holds up better now. Even Twin Snakes, because I think we're talking GameCube, so we're talking like mid 2000s. Yeah. So it's also got some age on it as well. And with Black Mesa too, there's also the added bonus that this wasn't made by a major company. This was like made by a small group of fans. So it's also the impressiveness of like the anomaly that it wasn't, because it wasn't Valve themselves that did this. It was they gave their blessing on it, but it wasn't directly made by them, which is also impressive that it was done so well. And it's again a testament too of like, it's maybe a conversation we have another day, and I think we've had it before, but like, goddamn, companies, if they're not going to do anything with these properties, man, it's nice to let them see actually, or to watch them actually just let people make these things, because who knew that, like, well, Valve also went, shit, we'll just put that on Steam. We'll make a buttload of money anyway. And it worked out just fine for them. Like, I swear to God, all these remakes of people doing, like, Nintendo games, or, like, people making 3D versions of Mario 64 that are in, like, Unreal Engine. Nintendo, I know you guys are antiquated and old curmudgeons, but, like, do you understand that if you barely paid these people and just take their thing and put that on the store for the absurd amount of money that you charge, it costs you next to nothing, and you just made yourself a shit ton of money. Like, it's not difficult to figure out, but it's that whole method of rather make their own money making $1 rather than somebody else's way making 100. So, but yeah, I think Black Mesa on the edge, just because I think first-person shooter, and it's a lot more modernized, so it definitely holds up more today than, say, Twin Snakes does.
Okay, I got some tiebreaker. I'm going to give it to Twin Snake just because Black Mesa is just a giant tease, because there's still no conclusion to Half-Life, so it's just a giant tease, and that's why I'm giving it to Twin Snakes.
What a bullshit reason.
It's my reason, though. It doesn't matter.
Oh, I'm going to screw you so hard next one.
Hey, it's not a personal thing. I'm going to stick with PC and some older games. I'm going to throw one that you probably haven't thought of in a while. Dune 2000, which is a remake of the original Dune 2 RTS game. This is a game that I played in the late 90s, and I think it has a significant thing in that it is bringing a game from the MS-DOS age to, the Windows platform, and it brought it also to PlayStation. And this is a significant game because this is, I think, if not the first, like one of the first successful RTS games, and kind of kickstarted a whole genre that was huge up until the early 2000s. Yeah, I know there's still like a couple of them. Shut up, they're not. Like Warcraft 3 was probably the last good like RTS game. But yeah, so I'm going to throw out Dune 2000 against Twin Snakes.
Interesting. I haven't played Dune, but I like that version of Dune. But I do love that as a franchise a lot. Adam, have you played?
No. Well, you know what? I remember playing like way long ago a Dune RTS, but I couldn't remember which. I couldn't tell you which one. It was like
It was that
one of
one.
those ones that I got in like a cereal box back in the day when that was the thing that used to happen.
Man, Roller Coaster Tycoon in the cereal
Man,
box.
you want to
yeah.
you want to age us so hard. Remember when you could get PC-ROM video games in cereal boxes? Roller
And they were
Coaster
good too. They
Tycoon,
weren't garbage.
Clue, actually, Clue.
Monopoly.
Jesus Christ, that Clue scared the shit out of me as a kid because they actually, when you selected who you wanted to, who you thought was the murderer, they actually play the scene out in a like a little like cutscene. No, that's nightmare fuel. What the hell was wrong with you, Hasbro? That was a bad idea.
And of course, it's like early, like mid '90s animation. So
Oh
it's
yeah, so it's like
stilted and
even more
jarring as hell.
terrifying for the wrong reasons.
Yeah. Yeah, no. So Dune RTS, if you guys are just kind of trying to remember what it was, it basically looks like a Command and Conquer game set in the Dune universe. You have like a couple of the different houses, and I think they made a new house there as well. But the thing I always remembered is that you could set up your bases and you set them up on these rocks, and you could send your armies out. And if they crossed, across the sand, it's very possible for like a worm to come out and just like eat your soldiers and take them down. And yeah.
Yeah. Well,
All
I
right.
guess I'm the tiebreaker here.
I don't think you, Chris, where you fall? Are you still Twin Sticks, or are you going with Dune 2000?
It's tough just because I haven't actually played this Dune, but I am almost ready to lean towards Dune just because I love that franchise, like as an RTS, so much that even if I haven't played that one, and it's a different one than I've played, that I would maybe want to give it to it anyways, just because I do love it in general.
Adam, where do you fall?
I gotta wait for his vote because my vote's meaningless if he changes his mind because then there's no point in asking me.
Well, I still want your opinion.
Yeah, we value
But
it.
it's funnier if he gives his opinion first.
All right. So where you going? You gotta pick a side, Chris.
All right, I'm gonna go Dune.
All
Well,
right.
that makes it no fun now because I was gonna say middle, or if you said Twin Snakes, I would say well, Twin Snakes wins because Dune's a stupid movie. Since we're pulling out bullshit reasons, I actually legitimately don't like it. I've watched the movie
Wow.
twice. I don't like it.
Which one did you watch? The
the new
with
one that
Patrick
came out.
Stewart. Okay. Well, it's okay.
It's
all
Look,
right.
you look,
So-
Kaylan's used to me having bad opinions on the show, so it's
Oh,
nothing
it's
new.
fine. It's more actually like an accolade for it if it says that you don't like it.
But I
It
mean,
kind
if
of
I was
is
going to choose
a
one or
mark-
the other anyway, I would choose Twin Snakes just because RTSs aren't my thing anyway.
Fair enough. All right, Adam, which one do you have to go up against Dune 2000?
All right, let's throw. I'm trying to keep the heavyweights out for the time being because I mean, if I throw, look, let's be honest. There's a couple if I throw in here, it's not getting eliminated for a while. So, I'll throw a fun one out. Let's go with. It's in the title. It's remastered, but it's not a remaster because that's not true. DuckTales remastered because they straight up did remake the old NES game for modern consoles. And
that
I think
was
that's also a
weird.
case too of like this is when remasters can be done cheaply and very well because it doesn't take much to make a game like this again. And honestly, they did a fantastic job with it. The only thing that I wish they'd done is they really leaned into the cartoon aspect and went like full graphically to make it look like the exact cartoon. Because I think they were around the same time they were rebooting the cartoons as well, weren't they?
It was a little bit before rebooting it, but it's not that far off. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's one of the things too. Like, man, can you imagine like today if they were making like obviously we had like the Aladdin games and stuff on the old Genesis and Super Nintendo, if we could have like games literally made in that exact cartoon style now.
Yeah,
So,
I love
the
the
only-
DuckTales one.
The only argument I'm going to make against the DuckTales, and it's a great choice, and this comment's going to bite me in the ass, so you can put a pin in it if you want to. Did the from a graphical game or gameplay perspective, did it require a remake? That's going to be like, I'm not casting my vote. I'm not trying to say you're wrong. It's a great option, but and once again, say this argument because you're going to be able to use it against me in a bit. Did it require a remake from either a gameplay or graphical perspective?
I think the answer is always yes when it's something that is from Disney because kids will always take a shine to these things.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
That is true. Yeah, and coming from an NES game, it would have been really hard. Even a remaster would have really just been them re-releasing it, and instead of it being in like
Because I think they
1080p,
actually, yeah, they
they
did
put it
that
in
too. They did
1080p.
like the Disney Afternoon Classics or something like the pack that was all
Yeah.
the old games, but they also did straight up a remaster, which I don't think they did with too many other games. I think DuckTales might have been the only one they did with that.
It's because Aladdin and Lion King were impossible to beat.
Well, but it's also like because DuckTales legitimately was like
It was a good game.
It was a huge one that a lot of people remember. Like the Moon music is one of the most commonly covered songs, which is crazy because like I don't know a lot of people that talk about that game, but they constantly mention that song. Like you play the first bit of that song and people's eyes light up.
Yeah. I'm still sticking with Dune 2000. Adam, DuckTales. Chris, you're the tiebreaker.
Ooh, this one's tough because I also really like that DuckTales game. Not just the original, like I actually played through and got the remaster. Sorry, not remaster. It clearly is a remake. It's weird that they put freaking remaster in the name instead of remake.
Well, I think this is probably early in the days when you didn't know what remaster and remake
they didn't know what it meant. They're like, we remade a game. All right, we remastered it. Yeah, that's the one.
Look, you choose wrong. I'm throwing you. Well, either way, you're either falling in a pit of sand with a worm, or you're falling in a massive pit of gold and just like breaking everything on impact.
That's true. It seems like it's going to be great, and then you hit the gold and you die. So it's not a swimming pool, kids. You know what? I'm going to give it to DuckTales just because of that freaking moon music. Like, a fun fact, it's actually on one of my workout playlists. So, and not the original. It's like a remaster of it that's a lot more upbeat, but still. So, yeah, I have to give it to that one just for workout reasons.
Nice. All right. Which one do you have here, Chris? What's your next one?
You know what? Because we've got an old one, I've got another, or based on an old one, I've got another one kind of ish similar. I'm going to go with Super Mario All-Stars because I think this is a remake for Super Mario Brothers 1, 2, and 3, right?
No, I think that was just I don't think it was remade.
Because it definitely has different graphics, but I'm not sure if that meant they had to remake it or not because it looks a lot more like I guess kind of like Super Mario World.
No, because Wikipedia does mention it contained remakes of Nintendo's 4 Super Mario games released for the NES. So they were remade with the Super Nintendo chip.
All right, that technically fits our criteria.
Yeah. That's why I even have a question mark next to it.
But yeah.
Yeah.
Technically falls in our criteria. They started from scratch.
Yeah. I figured it'd be good to throw up against DuckTales.
Damn.
I mean, look, I can make this easy. I'm not going to vote Super Mario All-Stars under DuckTales, so All-Stars is going to take over.
Oh, I don't know if I am either. I'm just throwing out.
Mario definitely takes DuckTales. I'm sorry.
Now, like, depending on what we throw it against other things, it's going to be easier to eliminate All-Stars because All-Stars is, like, very loosely close to the originals in date, so it's not, like, a massive shift. So, like, there are other games that I think we'll put above it. Not because, like, they're better than the All-Stars, like, because, let's be honest, All-Stars is, like, literally a compilation of some of the best games of all time. That's kind of an unfair one. But from an actual terms of a remake, I think there are things that will beat that. But I would even agree that All-Stars as remaking those games is still slightly better than DuckTales.
Okay. I'll actually bring in the contender up for it. I think this is a good face-to-face matchup. If we're staying with iconic mascots, I'm going to throw out the Crash Bandicoot trilogy that came out.
Oh, the Insane trilogy?
From Toy Story. Yeah, the Insane trilogy. So head-to-head, I think if we're talking about Mario being a very small upgrade, just going from one console to the next console, sure, they're all great games, but like you said, not a huge upstep in terms of changes to it. I think Crash Bandicoot had a huge change to it in that you had these ugly-ass polygon shapes, and now it's a fully animated, almost looks like a Pixar-style movie to it. Comes with all 3 games, classics if you grew up with PlayStation. So now, granted, games are pretty harder than we probably remember them being. But
holy crap!
I'm going to throw is also in All Stars, so let's not kid ourselves.
I'm going to throw the Insane trilogy out against Mario All Stars.
That's a good one. I like that.
Chris, are you changing your vote, or are you still sticking with All Stars?
No, I think I'm going to change it over to Crash Bandicoot only because the graphical change and it looking kind of like a moving cartoon, it really, really did kind of bring kind of like what you thought the games looked like in the 90s to now what you can actually make them look like. So they match what your imagination was filling in before.
Okay. So
I think I'm going to go with Crash Bandicoot.
Unless, Kaylan, somehow you're not voting for your own
No,
thing.
I'm still with Crash.
Okay.
And this isn't mine. These are the ones that I played and I can think of. I'm not necessarily
on these
on
but
these
you
camps.
brought it forward, so you're the one.
Fair enough.
Okay, so I guess that puts me up next again. So I'll throw a fun one right against it. That's also, I guess, well, Crash isn't really a Sony property anymore, but back then it was.
Technically, now it's the Microsoft property.
Yeah, which is fucking wild.
As of today.
Yeah.
But I'll throw a fun also at the time Sony exclusive, and still is Sony exclusive. But I'll throw one up against that. I'll throw the Ratchet and Clank remake that was done for PS4.
Oh, I can't lie. I think I almost instantly have to switch over to Ratchet and Clank.
Agreed.
Yeah, like
it
that
looks so
remake,
good.
That game was so good. I didn't play it until I got a PS5. I never had a PS4, but holy crap, when I was playing it, my mind was just like constantly blowing.
Yeah,
and
to be honest,
that's the point too, where like graphically, like that's where I look at it and be like, look, I like my realistic stuff too, but this is where games like this can thrive now. And Rift Apart also showed that too, where it's like you can make these games that still look incredible, but yet they don't look photogenic. It's still like man, like the way that show, like that looks like in the same way of like, you know, watching a Pixar movie. Ratchet and Clank look like a very clean, like 3D movie, and it just happens to be this really, really smooth control video game.
Yeah, it's all about the art style. And
also,
to be honest,
how can you
I'd
hate
say,
disco grenades?
right?
They were
Mr.
really-
Mr. Zircon is the best.
Oh yeah. It's also
Um,
funny. Like the game's very funny too.
Yeah.
Like the humor is spot on.
And I would say that the game actually made some like improvements. Like the thing with the first game, Ratchet and Clank kind of like don't get along. Like they hate each other in the first game, and they kind of rewrote that so that they have more of that buddy sort of persona where they didn't in the first game. So I think that they actually took some of the maybe criticisms or at least some of the problems that they had with the first game and they fixed it for the second one. And it's more fun to play than the Insane Trilogy. The Insane Trilogy is a fun blast from the past, but it's not super fun. It's more frustrating than anything.
Yeah, they're hard. Those games are so much harder than I remember. I don't understand. Is it me? Am I old?
It's you.
What's happened?
Yeah, it's you.
No, it's the children that are wrong.
I mean, also it's your turn to throw another one forward.
Oh, I'm not gonna have a good one for this. All right. Well, since we're talking about PlayStation, maybe I'll throw out the Shadow of the Colossus remake that just came out. No, well, not just came out, but somewhat recently came out. Obviously, a very different style graphically, but another PlayStation property that was remade, as PlayStation likes to do.
That's a tough one. I haven't played Shadow of the Colossus. It's something I mean to play, but I've never gotten to it.
It's one of those things that's passed me by as well, but that's also because like whenever I hear stories about how depressing that game is towards the end, I'm like, no, I'm good. I'm too old to play this shit anymore.
It's definitely pretty well, yeah, it's depressing. Yeah, the game is very much a unique game. Have you guys played even the original or just not the remake?
I've never touched this IP.
Oh, okay. So the concept is, you know, you're a guy on a horse, and there is basically, I think it's 12, might be 10 or 8, but there's a set number of just colossal sized bosses that roam around on the map, and the whole idea is that you need to kill them all. There is a story reason for it, but it's one of those games where there's very little dialogue, so you're figuring out stuff as you go, and it's just slowly unraveling the mystery, kind of through other hints, body language, things you find, like that kind of stuff. So it's a very simple game in the sense that you start, there's like the opening cutscene, and it's you and your horse, and you pick and choose where to go. Like you don't necessarily have to do them in an order or anything like that. I don't even think there's other enemies on the map. I can't even remember that part, but I remember there being almost nothing, and it was all about figuring out how to get to all of the bosses and then figuring out as a regular sized human how to take out this like skyscraper looking creature and taking it down. And it was all about the big boss moments, kind of God of War style. And then unraveling this story like that, you know very little about, and then by the end of it you figure it out and you're like, oh damn, that's what's going on. But it is depressing in the sense that the reason you're doing all of this is not very fun, and you're extremely alone. You're the only person in the whole game. You don't interact with other characters. There's no NPCs. It's you, your horse, and just the mission of destroying all the colossi, or whatever, however you'd say that, plural. So really, really cool game. I highly suggest it to anybody. I actually just recently bought it on the PlayStation store for $15. And if you had PlayStation Plus back in the day, you probably have it. I think it was early
it definitely
2020.
falls into
Yeah.
that like games as an art thing too. Like it's
Yeah.
Journey, but with like a much more combative focused gameplay. Because
Yeah.
there is definitely a lot of that. Like this is one of those ones that like critics will like the most of artistic value critics will go and absolutely applaud this game.
Yeah. It's one of those games that you play it once and you put the controller down during the credits and you just kind of like absorb what the hell just happened. And then like 10 years later, you're like, oh, maybe I'll play that again. But like you wait 10 years because you're not ready to do it again. Unlike Ratchet and Clank, where you can probably pick it up a year later and you're like, wee, that was fun.
So I'm gonna abstain from this vote because I've not played Shadow of the Colossus, so I don't want to speak to it or anything like that. What I will say for like, you know, Adam and Chris, or even just Chris, if you're the one that's making the decision, my questions would be like, I think that there's an argument to be made that like, you know, we have tons of Ratchet and Clank games that if you haven't played the first one, there's other ones that you can play. Whereas I think there's only like the Shadow of the Colossus, and I know they've got similar style ones in like The Last Guardian and I think Ico's the other one.
Ico,
So
yeah.
like, but this is like a standalone game. My question is like, does the graphical fidelity improve with the remake? Like, does it look drastically different from what the other one is? And does it improve some of the other ones? I'm abstaining, but that might be something you want to consider.
I guess that's probably the
your
deciding
vote.
factor is do we think that the remake improves one over the other more?
I would honestly have to give it to Ratchet and Clank that way, only because the Ratchet and Clank worlds and characters and everything are already so like bright, colorful, and filled in. Whereas this game is very bleak, very empty kind of world. It looks amazing, but it's not like when you put it on. It's more like when you play the game, it's possible when you play the remake, you may have noticed no change. For you, it looks like how you remember. Then you go back to the PS2 one and you're like, oh my God, what the hell is the resolution of this
it's like
game?
when you
and the
realize
text-
when you play like Daytona USA like 20 years later, you're like, oh God, this doesn't look like I remember it.
Yeah. I think that's more what Shadow of the Colossus was, like taking it how you remember it, but actually making it look like that on modern TVs. Whereas Ratchet and Clank really was taking the story and the concept of the first one, but like really just doubling down. So even I would have to give it to Ratchet Clank, to be completely honest, for those reasons.
Okay. I feel like I'm sending this one out to die, and I don't care. This is what I got on my list. CTR, Crash Team Racing.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. Yeah, I'm going to have to give that one to Ratchet and Clank. Just
Done.
because.
I agree. It was a throwaway.
Good.
Yeah.
You gotta get a throwaway in there somewhere.
I got a couple of those.
Keep it going, Chris. You got another throwaway?
Do I? No. Not necessarily, no. I wouldn't say throwaway. Ones that I don't think
I
will
got
win,
another
but-
throwaway.
Well, let me throw a throwaway in because I haven't gotten to do anything for a while because apparently when I threw Ratchet and Clank into like a fun connection that I didn't think it was gonna win four straight rounds. I'll throw in as a fun one, even though like it would not win, but the Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 and 2 re-release.
Oh shit! Yeah, I forgot
I
about
had
that
that
one.
on my list too. Yeah. It's hard because like I don't know if that would be a
For the same
throwaway
reason
or
that
anything,
like
'cause-
Shadow of the Colossus isn't passing, but Tony Hawk doesn't necessarily do anything differently. It's just updated.
Yeah, it looks like how you would have imagined it back when you were playing it in the early 2000s.
Except, oh wait, no, I think most of the music got carried over. I think
That's
most
what
of it
I was
did.
just actually thinking, like did all the music, and I
Yeah.
think most of it did, and I think it even got some new tracks too, which are very fitting though for the Tony Hawk franchise.
Man, that's just one of those games too that you're like, I don't think it will ever do what it did back then. It can't be redone.
Yeah.
I'm
tough.
gonna kind of actually, once again, Adam's throwaway. I think is gonna take it for me. Like, if you look back into the original Tony Hawk games, those games look rough, and this does improve the graphics a bunch. I also think that like there's no other like, it's hard. Like I think I might give it to Tony Hawk. Like it captures a time. It captures a time. It's a time capsule, and it opens it up and like exposes it to new games because we don't get a lot of skateboarding games anymore, let alone good skateboarding games. We get Ratchet and Clanks all the time, and no offense, once you get one, they're all kind of the same.
That is true.
I think I'm gonna give it to Tony Hawk.
I can't lie. I think I'm also going to give it to Tony
Are
Hawk.
you guys
'cause-
making me beat myself? We're not supposed to. This is not. This is not an 18+ show, guys.
Yeah. Should we just let Adam just pick all his
Adam, just
ones
tell us
that
which
he
ones.
think are
Adam,
crap?
tell us which one's the best one.
I mean, I've still got plenty on this list, so.
I think Tony Hawk is right now.
I think Tony Hawk too, because you can also keep going back to it. It's something where like every 6 months, maybe you'll go back and just play a couple levels and then like kind of leave. Whereas Ratchet and Clank, you'll play for 10 hours, 15 hours, whatever the story is. And then once you beat it, it's not like I have to go back and play Ratchet and Clank again. You're done. Like the game's done. It's over. It was great, but you're not coming back to it. Where Tony Hawk, you might even just want to go in and listen to the music. You won't even really play the game. You'll just be in it.
You're actually making me want to go play it right now.
Yeah, me too. It's installed and I haven't started it up in a long time, and I might do it again.
Well,
tonight.
I was thinking I might download it onto my PS5, and I'm gonna use the game starter that I have and just play that remote play.
Oh,
That's a perfect remote play game.
That's a good remote play. I have the remote play app on my Steam Deck. Oh, I gotta stop playing that. All right,
Chris, you've got games to play. Don't do it. Stop distracting yourself.
It's a game that I have on PS5. It was PS Plus monthly. I have to play it. It's like a game I was gifted.
Chris, what do you have next?
Oh, against Tony Hawk. Why do I keep going after Adam? Adam's got.
Oh, would you like me to go?
I had to
I'll
go after
I'll go.
myself because you guys just can't beat my stuff anymore.
Well, I have my like really good ones, but I'm worried that they're gonna then disappear.
Well, that's the thing. I'm trying carefully to like weigh them as they are, so that because literally there's one specifically that I don't know if you and I Chris vote against. So I'm being very cautious on which ones I pick right away. Otherwise, this whole thing just ends up being like, all right, well, this isn't losing, so here's just a bunch of other games.
All right, Kaylan, how many do you have left? Maybe we should make sure that
I
we
have 1, 2, 3, 4. I have 5 left.
I also have 5 left. Okay, so we're about on the same.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'll go with 1 then, I guess. This might be a throwaway. I still think it's really good, but the thing is, this is an older remake, and that's Tomb Raider Anniversary. I don't know if you guys remember when that one came out and they remade the first game. I just remember when that came out. And even I quickly went back to like look at the graphics. I was like, oh yeah, how different did this look? And it looked a lot better. Like they took the first Tomb Raider game, like the original OG like triangle Lara, just like completely polygon everywhere, and actually made like a much more, for the time, realistic looking game. And I just remember how, I guess I want to say blown away I was at the time by it. I was really, really impressed, especially with the graphics overhaul to bring it up. Especially, I think it came out at a time when Tomb Raider was starting to go down the path of like too many sequels, and they kept trying to do weird story things, and it was like really taking away from what was going on, and it kind of went back to the roots and was like, here's the original game.
I was gonna say, I'm like, I almost want to give it a no vote because it's literally right around the same age that we had Legend and Angel of Darkness, which I still try to forget.
Yeah, exactly. Like this was like, hey, forget the other crap and how far we've gone in the wrong direction. Here's the first game again, but it's
Tomb
pretty.
Raider Anniversary is like the same thing that Capcom did when they finally just put Resident Evil, I think it was 4 out, because it kind of changed things after they were just completely floundering, in the same way that like 7 came out after 5 and 6 were floundering. It's like, oh god, we're making bad games. Okay, let's put out like the remake. So they put out like the HD remake of 1, and then 4 came out after that, and then things were okay again. In the same way that we're like, oh god, everything's so bad. And they were like, here's a remake of 2. We're like, oh, that's really good. And now here's 7. We're like, oh, that looks good too. Capcom, you're back. That was Crystal Dynamics going, we need to save Tomb Raider. Oh my god, we failed so bad.
Yeah.
For me, I'm really sorry. I think I'm staying with Tony Hawk. I think like it's one that I still want to go back to, and like, yeah, Tomb Raider's cool, but I think like it's better. Like the reboot was better than the remake, in my opinion.
That is a really good point.
I'm also at the point though that admittedly, like Tomb Raider right now, I don't even think is worth anything in my mind, because look, if I really want to play a Tomb Raider game, Uncharted exists.
The reboot
is
good though.
Stop making Uncharted games altogether, but I don't believe they're stopping yet.
The reboot trilogy is really, really good, and I have to admit, if I had to choose like to play the Anniversary Edition or just go back and play the first reboot, like the original, the first reboot game, I would probably go to that reboot for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So even I'll give it over to Tony Hawk.
I'm gonna throw this one out there. Keep in mind, I said keep this in your ammo because you're gonna need this later. Last of Us Part 1.
I only laugh because you reminded us.
Did this need a remake? See, by that logic, I should have just kept saying Grand Theft Auto 5 and Skyrim and just see how long it goes through. I know those are only remasters.
The thing is I've played all 3 editions briefly of Last of Us, but I only ever played through the beginning to end and got the platinum and everything with the remake. I think the remake is fantastic. Even I was skeptical when it was first announced because every article was, does this game even need a remake? Because the other ones look so good. There was already a remaster of the original and then the remake. I think the remake is amazing, but I might have to give it to Tony Hawk only because if the remake for Last of Us didn't exist for Part 1, you could still go back to Last of Us remastered. And you'd be able to still play the game and probably not realize what you're missing.
Uh-oh, what's he grabbing?
Oh, he's grabbing all of his Last of Us gear. He has probably got cutouts. He's got a PS5 exclusive faceplate or something. I don't know. I'm waiting for something.
Uh-oh. Has he got the ammo?
I was going to say, if you are trying to figure out which one to play, you can just there's options. You don't have to go to the remake.
Did it need a remake?
Yeah. Which version of The Last of Us do you want to play? And for our audio listeners, I am literally holding every version of The Last of Us in my hands right now.
I mean, I can be the asshole and say none of them because I don't like the game, but
oh yeah, no, that's not the
Adam, just let it go. Let it pass. You don't have to say that. No, I think The Last of Us Part 1. Last of Us Part 1 is a fantastic remake. If you haven't played the game, I would if someone said I've never played the game before, certainly the remake is the way to go. But did it need to be remade? No. I'm pretty much convinced that it was made for the sole purpose of parody with The Last of Us Part 2 and just have the Part 1 in the title.
Yeah. And if you've only played the PS3 version and never played the remaster and you feel like playing it again, the remake might still be worth it there. I think it really is the remaster in the middle that kind of makes everything a little muddy. Because if it was PS3 version and then the PS5 version, and those were the only two, the remake would very few people would have been like, oh, does this need a remake? People would have been like, oh my God, The Last of Us is back. Especially since you couldn't play the PS3 version on the PS4. So it would have been a huge deal to have it back. It's just that they did the remaster 5 months or a year or whatever after the PS3 version came out. They should have just re-released it on PS4 and been like, hey, we just re-released it on PS4 because we know that you guys probably want to still play it, but you can't play PS3 on PS4, so here you go.
I have a problem, guys. This is ridiculous.
It's a good problem. After
we're gamers, we all have problems.
When I was vacationing in... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, when I was vacationing in Alberta this year, and I specifically went to the small town where they filmed The Last of Us and even recreated the scene where Joel and Ellie are walking across that bridge on the same bridge, I can understand now your obsession with Last of Us. It's a fantastic, fantastic series. So don't feel shame. Don't feel shame.
Yeah. Anyways, that's mine. Adam,
all right, well,
which
you
one
both have lost again, so I got to throw another one in. All right, so I got to beat myself again. All right, let's go with a complete different change of pace here. So I'm going to throw out the only time I'm going to mention a Switch game. Actually, that's maybe not true. We'll see. But I will throw out Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee. I was going to throw Fire Red and Leaf Green, but I figure there was more of a difference with Pikachu and Eevee that I thought it was a more interesting argument at this point.
Yeah. Also, can we point out just how many remakes of Pokemon games there were when we're going over the list?
Yeah.
They just kept re-releasing the
Soul
game.
Silver.
Yeah, Fire Red, Leaf Green, Water Blue. I don't know if there was a blue one. I don't think there was. But yeah, there's so crazy amounts of remakes that it's
almost like they know that people will buy it.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm tempted to buy it so I can play with my son.
And I also specifically figured, well, that's because I've seen list after list, and they all seem to say the Heart Gold and Soul Silver is the best one. But let's be honest, between the three of us, we go with the red blue remakes, and that's where we go with that.
Here's a fun little side note. Let's have a little side conversation. Which ones were you guys? Would you guys have Pokemon Red or Pokemon Blue?
I had blue.
I had blue.
I had blue, yeah.
Yeah. I feel like blue was the more popular one.
I think so. I got blue.
Well, yeah,
because my
Charizard was a
friend-
dick.
Yeah. That has to be clipped and put on YouTube. That's all I'm gonna say. Yeah.
Yeah. I had blue.
Yep.
I'm kind of torn with the Let's Go series because yeah, it brings it to, the graphical improvement is huge. I don't know how I feel about the whole motion control and throwing the Pokeball or whatever, but I don't know. I'm kind of torn on this one.
So I played through Let's Go Pikachu. I do have it on my Switch. Played through and beat it just because, again, nostalgia for the original game. And I did not like the motion controls, the whole holding the Joy-Con and throwing it at the TV kind of thing. I did not like it. However, when you play portable, like just handheld mode, it's like a button press. So it's kind of like it becomes Pokemon Go. So you just kind of like where you put your thumb on the screen and flick it, you would just put your finger on the joystick and kind of flick that up and it would throw the ball. And it was more just a timing thing of a circle going in and out.
Yeah.
As soon as I figured that out, I only played portable, which it's a Pokemon game. Mostly that's what probably you want to do anyways. It became
they are called
probably
pocket monsters.
That is true. It became probably one of my favorite Pokemon games that I've ever played. Because it was a lot you'd get into a battle. You didn't have to do battles with Pokemon when you found them. They stood there and you basically had an amount of time to try and catch them. And if you did, you did. And if you missed, you missed. Get them or don't. And that was that.
You don't battle them? You don't battle them in the wild?
No, but you do still battle all the trainers you find in the wild and all that kind of stuff. It's more just you would catch a Pokemon and every time you caught one, you got experience for all the Pokemon you already have. So you would just go around collecting Pokemon and you'd get XP, 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 XP. And then again, you're walking, all the trainers are there that normally you'd run into and have to battle. So it kind of just took out all of that nonsense of the battles in between.
Out too.
Yeah, the grinding was gone. It got to the point where I was catching so many things I saw. And again, trading and stuff, so you'd collect extra. And I think if you had multiple of a certain Pokemon, you could trade them in at Pokemon centers to get other things and stuff. So there'd be
trade them at the Pokemon centers to get sent to the glue factory.
And that's a Jenny Bezos game right there. Just keeps going around the fields and just catching Rattatats over and over.
Oh my god, so many clips that need to end up on YouTube.
What do you do with all the Pokemon I catch? Nothing. We send them back in the wild. They go to they get sent to a farm, glue factory.
Yeah. At a farm. But one thing I'll also
that's where
say
Pokédogs come from.
Oh no. Yeah, also the game made it a lot easier for kids to get into as well. I showed it to my nephew, and after he just figured out the whole flicking of the joystick to throw the Pokeball at the right time, he got into it really well compared to the other Pokemons where he'd get to a battle and he's no idea what he's doing, attack, special attack, item, he had no idea. So I think this is also a really good beginner's Pokemon for if you are somebody who loved the series and then you have kids or something, or younger nephew, niece or something, and you want to get them into it. Much younger entry level game versus the other Pokemon games, I'd say for sure.
Fair enough. I gotta sneeze.
I was like, what's going on here?
It's right there. It's gone.
So, Chris, is that your vote?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna give it to.
So I've beaten myself 3 times in a row. So apparently you guys.
I didn't vote for Pokemon yet. Did you vote for Pokemon?
Well, I put it in, so of course I'm voting for it.
It's not necessarily that you're voting for it. You can still stay with Tony Hawk if you still think Tony Hawk's a better option. All right, cool. Pokemon Go or Pokemon Let's Go. Pokemon Go. It's Pokemon Go.
Yeah, it's Pokemon Go, basically.
Every Pokemon fan right now is screaming, being like, no, it's not!
It's Let's Go, it's different.
I'm going to throw out another Nintendo game out there. Advanced Wars Reboot Camp. This is one that I didn't talk about last week, which came out this year. In this incredible year of games, this one got overshadowed. It takes basically Advanced Wars 1 and 2 from the GBA and puts it onto the Switch. Such a fun game. I loved the strategy. I loved the combat. Story was but like it's taking a portable game and a game that didn't get a lot of interest and I don't think had a lot of publicity in when it first came out, and bringing it to like the main console gives it a little bit more light. So I'm going to put Advance Wars Reboot as my option. Actually, I'm sorry, I cut you off. This was supposed to be your turn, but whatever, Chris.
Oh no, that's no. I think it might be your turn. I actually have no idea.
It was your
right.
turn, Chris, but we're just going to say, so Kaylan gets disqualified, so his game sucks immediately off of that. I mean, if I was picking between the two as well, I'd still vote for Pokemon on that one.
I'd vote for Pokemon as well.
I think I would have to, only because I haven't played Advance Wars yet, but I'm extremely, extremely excited to play that one. I have it on my wish list.
Fun.
It's one of the games that's included in that like Nintendo voucher program, so you can get 2 games for like 130. I'm definitely going to pick it up using that when it's time. But yeah, I'm really excited to play that one. I love Advance Wars. I've played many indie games that were designed to be like Advance Wars to fill that void of no Advance Wars, and the fact that the actual first 2 games did they combine both games into one game, or is it still the 2 games are separate that you
2 separate
through?
games, so you get to the main menu, you can choose Advance Wars or Advance Wars 2.
Okay. Yeah, I wasn't sure if they like redid this story and made it just one longer game, but
no.
Yeah.
2 separate
Awesome.
games. Cool. Sorry, Chris, it's your turn now.
All right, well, if we're going to stick with Nintendo, I'm not going to throw out the heavy hitter one. I've got one other one, which is probably going to get knocked out real quick, but that's Metroid Zero Mission. That is where it is the original Metroid game that they remade for Game Boy Advance, I think.
Yeah, and then I think there was another follow-up with the second one. I think that was Samus Returns was the follow-up to 2, I believe.
Yeah, and I think that's on the DS or 3DS. I can't remember which one. I think 3DS. I think that was a 3DS game. Yeah, Zero Mission for me, the reason it was just so good is because the first Metroid, which is like, it's Metroidvania, like it created basically a genre of games. I've tried to go back to the first one, and I can't get into it. It's so rough. I can play Metroid 2 on Game Boy, which I have done, using they re-released it on 3DS, and now it's on the Switch Online service and stuff. I can still play that. I don't know what it is with the Game Boy's graphics. It just it holds up like with what it was on modern hardware. Doesn't look awful, doesn't play awful. But the original NES Metroid, damn, it is just really hard to get back into it because of, it was the original, right? It was almost a proof of concept that just did really well. So the Zero Mission, just taking that game, making it look like Super Metroid, would one of the greatest games probably ever made. It was just a smart move for a game that deserved the love. It's obviously the original Metroid, right? So I threw that one in there because that holds a special place in me heart.
I think for me, I'm staying with Pokemon.
Yeah, it's not going to be Pokemon.
All right, I'll beat myself again.
You couldn't just say compete with yourself. You couldn't just.
There's many ways you could have said it. You chose that one.
Of course. Why else would I choose that? It's literally memes. Why would I not go that route? All right. Well, let's go with another complete opposite to this game. You can pick whichever one of the 3 you want, but I'm going to go with the recent string of Resident Evil remakes. Whichever one you want to go with between 2, 3, and 4. Again, we're talking games that have been well past their time. Now, you can make an argument that 4 didn't necessarily need it. I would say that 2 and 3 definitely did.
I'll counter that it does, because it got rid of the one thing that I hated with Resident Evil games, and that is the tank controls of you can either move or shoot. I hated that.
True, but even at the time, graphically, it's still not terrible in comparison to say obviously the other 2, and also they control far worse. So
yeah, it is interesting because I have Resident Evil 4 on Steam, and it's not even the game's 20 years old when it was released. No, it was released much later. I think it's actually an HD version of it. Mm-hmm. But I think that the remake still does wow, it just kind of, it fits, right? They did 2 and 3. You kind of need to add 4 in there and keep the trend going. And I
let's
that you
hope
also
they stop, because
together.
I don't think people want to play 5 and 6 again, no matter how much they improve it.
If they do 5 and 6, they need to redo the story, not just remake the game.
Yeah, it's not a remake anymore. It's just literally a complete redo.
Yeah, Resident Evil 5 reboot. That's what it needs to be called. Same as 6. Yeah, for me, my vote is almost instantly on the Resident Evil remakes. As somebody who is terrified of everything about a horror game, I played through the second game and it blew me away. I had to play it in like 1 hour increments in the middle of the day with the lights on and the sun out and everything like that. I should have just played outside, to be honest. But I mean, just the quality of Resident Evil 2 when I played through that, it was amazing. I played through both stories, Claire's and Leon's, like I instantly had to. It was just too good to pass up. So for me, it's gonna win.
I'm inclined to say Resident Evil. I've not played them all. I played a little bit of them, and I think there's a bigger jump in terms of like the quality of life. That's tough because Pokemon got rid of the grind, which was a huge problem with Pokemon, and this one got improved controls.
And I mean, graphically, like they're relatively new too, so they look fantastic now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And they run on everything. Like,
yeah.
you can put them on
And also
any
mods.
system, and mods. Yeah,
You
the
can
mods
have
I've
Thomas the
seen are
Tank Engine
terrifying.
chase you.
That is terrifying. That is so much more terrifying. People don't do it. You think it's funny? It's the scariest shit you'll ever see in your freaking lives. I did it for a split
you're
second.
gonna play that mod, and then every time you hear a train out in the background, you're gonna start freaking out.
It's his dead eyes. Like, oh my god. Like, and the way it moves, like it's a train that's like shaking at you. No, like just
As a
absolutely
complete
not.
aside, because I haven't done this at all for a while. I love going completely off the bar here. Have you ever seen there's a long video on YouTube where somebody took clips from Thomas the Tank Engine because George Carlin was the narrator.
Yeah.
And then spliced in clips from his audiobooks where it just gets really vulgar.
I have not seen that.
It's the funniest. I'll send it to you guys afterwards. It's the funniest thing because it's like a 40-minute long video, and it's just all these different scenes from the not the cartoon, but from the kids show. And then all of a sudden, it just turns into like George Carlin just like talking about some guy taking a shit or something. It just out of nowhere, but they all match up so well. Like whoever did this took the time to find like the right spots for certain lines, and it's so fucking random and funny.
Can we talk about it for a minute? Like, I think Thomas the Tank is probably the most interesting child's show for the like huge celebrities that they got to narrate. So they got George Carlin, Ringo Starr at one point, and Alec Baldwin have all narrated for that show. It's crazy. Like, what does Thomas have on these people that they're like, fine, I'll do it. Just don't reveal that
Chris said
information.
It's the death stare. Like all they did was they sent the tank engine to their house. They opened up their door and just that blank stare, and they went, all right, I'll do it.
Yeah, now, if in real life I opened my door and that was waiting for me, I'm out. Like that's zombie apocalypse day one for me. I'm going into a bunker or something.
Well, that's like some like sentient trains. Like that's some scary shit. That's like Stephen King and like, yeah. That's Dark Tower right there. Now the question is, when they did the mod, did they make like the Thomas the Tank Engine song really creepy? Like,
no, it's just whenever he's walking around, all you hear is like you just hear the whistle.
Oh, that's even creepy too.
Yeah, and it's just the train's like kind of wobbling at you.
It's the one thing that I love about games today too is the fact that like sure you can just have mods where like it makes the games better or like the graphical updates, but goddamn the shit people come up with, like the Skyrim Macho Man Randy Savage dragon is so fucking good. Like there's nothing better than seeing this dragon going around being like, I'm gonna get ya.
Oh yeah.
That's amazing too. Yeah, but I got to give it to Resident Evil. Also just because of how well it runs on everything. Like you have a device, you can play Resident Evil 2,
It's
3,
definitely
and
the
4.
key of what a really good remake looks like, where it improves upon the game, improves the graphics, and just straight up isn't a broken mess because so many remakes come out just to be a cash grab.
Yeah,
and they end up being like, at best, like they run fine.
Yeah.
I'm going to throw out, staying with the vein of horror themes, I'm going to throw out another game from this year, staying with the horror vein, Dead Space. Now, there's an argument to be made. It's like a newer game. It still plays fine. But I think that there's an argument to be made for Dead Space in that Dead Space was a great game, beloved game that I think a lot of people slept on. And in terms of changes, they did a lot of changes that improved the gameplay and the experience. So one of the big changes they did is they gave Isaac a voice. So they used the same voice actor from the other two games and got him to come in and voice new lines to kind of give him some agency in the game. They also got rid of some backtracking, so like it used to be a lot harder to move through the Ishimura. And they kind of made it so it's more of a Metroidvania where you can kind of get things so you can get to new areas and move quicker. And they got rid of some crappy sections that people didn't like. So like they improved like zero gravity controls. They got rid of like a turret section that people didn't like. Yeah, so I think there's an argument, and it's got the benefit of being released in 2023, but I think it looks amazing as well. So my argument is for Dead Space.
Yeah, I think they're both very good because they both cut things that were not dealt with very well. They both like have made the games obviously a lot better. They run better. I still would give the edge to Resident Evil just because I do think that there is much more memorability with them compared to Dead Space. I think there's a little more intrinsic nostalgic value upon it too. So there is that added bonus of like, because if you remake a game that not nearly as many people have played, it doesn't come with nearly as much value as say a game that a lot of people love. So.
Yeah. This one's very close for me. I think I would still give the edge to Resident Evil. However, I didn't know that the original Dead Space, Isaac had no lines or anything, and then they brought him in and recorded all those lines. First. That is amazing. That is
which honestly makes a lot of sense in a horror game, not having the guy talking constantly. So you're just left with because the other thing about Dead Space 2 is like, in a way, I'm not even sure if it's a good idea to have him with a voice, because the more talking that happens, the less time that there is to be stuck in the atmosphere of just desolation, which I think is the big selling point of that game too.
I liked having him as like involved and not just a silent protagonist. I think like the silent protagonist for the most part, unless you have like a specific character that calls for, I don't know. I liked having him with a voice.
I think it'd be more comforting and I'd be less scared. So I like the voice.
All right, so where we falling? Resident Evil, and we're just gonna pick one.
I'm gonna have to stick with Resident Evil, but this is a very close one. This was probably one of the hardest ones that I've had to pick between, just because they're both such quality remakes. I haven't played Dead Space, but from what I've seen and read a ton about, like that's a really tough one because they're both really solid.
Yeah, Adam, I'm assuming you're sticking with Resident Evil as well.
Yep.
Okay, cool. All right. Chris, I stepped on your toes again. You go ahead.
Well, no, the order's now different because you stepped on it last time. So, it was just how it is now.
Whatever.
So is it my turn now?
Yes, it is.
It is your turn.
Oh, okay. Ooh.
I mean, we're at the point now. Do we finally start breaking out Well, I already broke out one of the big guns with Resident Evil.
Yeah, I brought up my big guns now.
Yeah, I
There's an elephant in the room and someone's screaming in this podcast. Don't worry, that game's coming.
No, this is actually it. Thanks for everybody for coming today. No.
Yeah, there are no other good remakes out after this.
I'm gonna throw out one of the Nintendo ones, and it's Link's Awakening. I'm gonna throw that out just because it is a huge remake. Obviously, like I get it. Like if you're not the top-down Zelda fan, for you this is just another Pokemon Let's Go or whatever. Like obviously, if you're not a fan of the series, you're not gonna really care much. But as a huge like old school 90s Zelda fan, to see a Game Boy game turned into this moving CG Pixar like game, I don't know, like it does kind of have that feel, where the world was recreated exactly in this new image. Like they didn't change for the most part anything that I can see or that I understood playing through it. Everything was in the same spot. You still, like, if you remembered everything from that Game Boy version, you could go and play through this whole game again, just with a much more modern and pleasing to the eye version. And the music obviously being redone. Some of those tracks, like the Ballad of the Windfish and stuff like that, were just such memorable songs and stuff in the game. So I'm going to throw out Link's Awakening because I thought that actually surprised me how well done that remake was.
I'm going to agree with you on this. Link's Awakening is, like, aesthetically, it is an amazing looking game. I'm surprised that Nintendo has never put the same effort into, like, putting Ocarina of Time. Is it Ocarina? No, A Link to the Past.
Or original Zelda.
Yeah, like, I'm surprised. Like, they should remake all of those top-down Legend of Zelda games.
They should literally have a team that from now on just does that with old games, because there are minimum 4 or 5 Zelda games that fall into this because you have the original. You could actually try to rejuvenate like Adventures of Link. Like you could actually try to make that a lot better because it had promise, but it wasn't really developed completely well. But you also still have like Oracle of Ages and Seasons, like giving that a proper full-on remake. You have, like you said, Link to the Past. You even have oh my god, like why am I blanking? Well, you even have like Phantom Hourglass. No, Minish Cap. There we go. That's the one I was thinking.
Oh, Minish Cap. Yep.
Like you have like the handheld ones too. So there's a lot of these you could go back. Same goes for Mario games. Like you could do a very loose like redo of some of the old Mario games. Like I would love to see what they do with just a slight like remastering of, say, a Super Mario 3, right? So
yeah, they could do some really cool stuff.
And they did some improvements in terms of like quality of life. Like warp points are now like you can warp like more places on the map. Your sword is now an equipped item at all times, whereas before it had to be equipped and you only had one equipment slot.
Yes,
so, like,
yes.
There was quality of life improvements to it too. So yeah, Link's Awakening, I'm gonna be honest, was on my list, and I'm thinking that was, to me, gonna be one of my highlight ones. And we're getting to the tough where it's a hard point here, and I think I'm gonna give it to Link's Awakening.
I would even give it to Link's Awakening. I haven't even played it yet, but I've watched my girlfriend who loves this game play it, and I gotta admit, like that is legitimately the testament of like how a remake's supposed to be done.
Okay, yeah, all right, we're gonna do Link's Awakening then.
Yeah, I mean, I have a Zelda tattoo on my arm. I have to give it to it by default.
It's contractually obligated. Adam, what do you got?
All right, well, here's my dilemma. I only have one thing I think that can beat this. Everything else
I only
is
have one left on my list too. I have one left on my list too, so if you want to save that one, I can bring it up.
I have a feeling the one Adam has is the one I have.
Chris knows which one it is.
Like, I think we all know which one it is.
Clearly, it's Counter-Strike Source.
Of course.
Oh, yeah, that's the best one. That's the best.
So I'll go down the rest of my list of what I'm not going to do because I'm literally throwing these out to die. They're not beating Link's Awakening.
I'm going to make one argument. Give us a second because Chris and I might interject and be like, that's actually one, but it probably won't be. But like, we'll go through it. And
yeah, I'll give you guys a second if you want to say things. So like I said, Counter-Strike Source, which is a 3-year-old remake of the original Counter-Strike. Just because I put that there because Source has widely been like, that one lasted forever. That one was the esports mecca for PC gamers, apart from StarCraft. Like, if you were a first-person shooter, you play Counter-Strike Source. That was your baby and I know this because I used to be on a team that did that shit. So yeah, that did really well. I also had Crisis Core Reunion that just recently came out. That was a bit of a remake of the PSP game, I believe. Yeah,
I played through that. That was a really good remake.
The launch title for PlayStation 5, the Demon's Souls remake.
Mm-hmm.
That looked very pretty.
I tried it. It kicked my ass, and that was it. I got through one boss. I said, good. I did the thing I wanted to do, and then I couldn't go much further, and I said, good. I'm done. I had Diablo 2 Resurrected.
Oh, yeah.
Which I know friends that were super into that when that came out.
Yeah, they definitely made that game look very pretty. Basically like Diablo 4 almost.
Mm-hmm. I added the DS remakes for Final Fantasy 3 and 4, which were the 3D with cutscenes. 3D.
Yeah, voice acting and everything. Kaylan, put it to the JRPG list.
you know, put it on the list there.
A couple of quick ones.
Step one, Ghosts and
Goblins Resurrection, which if you want to also hate yourself, go play that remake, because that game is a testament to how hard games were back in the day.
Yep.
Kingdom Hearts Rechain of Memories, which was a very interesting concept of taking a Game Boy Advance game and making it that was a side-scrolling game and made it into a full 3D Kingdom Hearts game, which was an interesting idea. I like the idea of that system even to begin with, because the whole idea of Chain of Memories was that it was a game where it was like a side-scrolling beat-em-up, but use cards as your ways to attack and do spells. So it was like a beat-em-up, but with a little bit of luck in like how trading card games work, is you might not get the thing you need. So I thought that was a really cool concept. The new Live Alive remake that was not even a remake to us. It was just the first time we ever got the game when it was put on Switch.
Yeah, I hope Square remakes a lot of their old games in that style.
Well, there's a rumor going around that they're thinking about it. I mean, apparently the 9 remake is in the works, and they're already looking at other properties. So I know Chris is sitting there being like, Xenogears.
Xenogears in that style. That's all I want. Just do it, please.
I also did what I recently played last year, Mafia Definitive Edition, which I thought was a tremendous improvement on the
Mafia
original.
Mafia does not beat Link's Awakening, but Mafia is a fantastic game.
It is a great
Yeah.
remake.
Oh yeah.
It's so frustrating because if you have never played it, one of the funniest things is that you can get speeding tickets for speeding in the game. So if you go over, like if you're
there's
just
actually a
driving
button
like your
to
Grand
put a
Theft Auto,
limiter on your car, so you can't speed. It's like cruise control.
yeah, and it's not like Grand Theft Auto. Like you will get pulled over for doing that and have to pay a fee.
Apart from that, I had two others. So I had the GameCube remake of Resident Evil.
No, you can't double dip.
No, I know, but that was but they were way different than putting 2, 3, and 4 together. Either way, it's not like it's beating Link's Awakening. I'm just putting it all out there. And the last one I knew it wouldn't get any votes because neither of you have played it, but Yakuza Kiwami 1 and 2, which were remakes of the original 2 PlayStation 2 games.
Oh yeah, I haven't got to the first one yet. I only
me neither. It's totally on my list. Totally on my list.
Add it to your list, yeah.
Legit, Yakuza 0 is a game that I think anybody should play. Like, even if you're not too big on Japanese stuff, it's definitely a game that you should try just to see if there's a way that level of wackiness can actually be dealt with, because they do such a good job of taking the wacky side of what Japanese games do and still grounding it so hard when you play the actual story parts of that game.
Yeah, as someone who'd never played Yakuza, and then I played through 0, like I immediately installed, is it Kiwami? Is that the?
Kiwami, yeah.
Yeah, Kiwami. I've got the first one purchased and installed on my Steam Deck, also ready to go, because those games are big and portable on the couch. Maybe the only way I get through them, not because I don't want to, just because they're so big.
Yeah,
is that the one where like you can have like a
long games? Oh, sorry, Kaylan, I didn't mean to interrupt.
I was gonna say, is that the one where like you were telling me about where like you can have a 7-Eleven run by a chicken or something like that?
Yep.
Okay, just check it.
His name's Nugget.
Like, the games necessarily aren't long. There's just so much, like, the side content.
Yes.
You know how a lot of games will have, like, a shit ton of side missions, but they're all copy and pasted stuff? Mm-hmm. Yakuza has side missions, but they're all good.
They're all stupid good. Like they're like mini games
really,
too. Like
they're all, like, really either well-written, or they're really funny, or they're really random. Like, they're not just... they're not, like, go fetch 5 bare asses.
Yeah, it's like a game that takes 15, like that has a 15-hour story that takes 80 hours to beat. Like,
also legit some of the best mini games I've ever played.
Oh, easily. Some like addicting.
I probably like they have good pool games. They have they have shogi and mahjong. They have arcades they have Club Sega arcades, because again it's Sega that makes them, and you can just go play old games. Like you can go play like Daytona Super Hang On, or like Virtua Fighter, or things like that. So you can take a break from playing the game to go play another game.
Yeah, it's crazy. So good.
But obviously, the only other thing that I possibly could think of that could beat Link's Awakening is the Final Fantasy VII Remake. So
yeah, and that's the last one I had too, for sure.
That's my last one too.
The thing with Final Fantasy VII Remake, and I know some people are even going to argue and saying it's not even really a remake, because it actually legitimately changes the story. Like, this isn't straight up like making the game from scratch again and replaying it out. They've literally changed it. So if you played the original, it's not like... It's loosely tied in the same way, but the events are no longer the same anymore. And now that we're going into what's the new game called again? Is it Reunion? No,
Rebirth?
Not Reunion.
Rebirth, something.
Oh my god, why am I blanking?
Resurrection.
Is it Resurrection?
I don't know.
I need to do this because it's going to drive me nuts.
Filling up dead time, guys. How's everyone's day going?
Rebirth.
My day's going okay.
Is it Rebirth?
Yeah, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth.
Wasn't that the DLC?
No, that was so
Resurface.
This is terrible. I can't think of anything right now. Yeah, it is Rebirth. I was completely blanking though. For some reason, I literally had it on my list as Rebirth because I think my brain's just like, I can't wait for that game. I need to play it.
Yeah.
But yeah, like the game, it checks all the boxes to me. So it takes a game that has not aged well graphically and makes it look amazing. Now, Square Enix is literally the masters at making 3D look amazing, so go figure. That's not a surprise. They took a battle system that, while I like, a lot of people say is antiquated as well, just the plain fight battle system, turned it into a little more button... Like, it's not the same as 16 per se, but it's enough that it does feel like you're actually actively participating. So they scratched that part. They added voice acting, which wasn't in the original games, and does a lot better. They made so many random characters that didn't really have much of a role in the game before suddenly mean something. So like, I maybe liked a handful of characters in the original. I can't even tell you how many I've lost count. There's just so many people now that I love. And then they've taken the best parts of the game that we've played so far and made those better. Like we said, that chapter 9 being in Market Town is literally one of the most absurd but so good chapters, where you go from trying to help your friend you think has been captured by this like mafia sort of looking dude who's probably going to do some shady shit to her, to, oh, in order to get in, you need to get an invitation to this get together, and only the hottest women will be allowed in there, to you as a guy getting dressed up to get into this party, which involves you going into this club and participating in a Dance Dance Revolution level minigame to get this done, to going in to said place. Well, you might look like a pile of shit depending on how well you do, but if you look like the best, you look like, literally the line is just like, Cloud, you look amazing. Yes, I know. And then completely walks off. So
I think he says like, I know I killed it, or
yeah,
I know I
something like
rocked
that.
it. Like,
and then to the point of like, literally the memes that have come out of that chapter alone, like Aerith with a steel chair has become one of my favorite things in all of Final Fantasy, because now as a wrestling fan, I have that to go with as well. So like, that alone, and we're not even talking about all of the changes they've made in terms of now where the story's going forward. We're like, if they had just stuck to the story, we'd still be pretty excited going into the next game. But now it's different. Like, there obviously are people that cannot stand it now because the story's different. But now I know Chris and I fall under the same category. I cannot wait for the new game because now I don't know what's going to happen. And that's what also makes this as a remake so much better too, because now it's already improving on the game, but it's also making it feel new again.
yeah. I feel like the game is almost fourth wall breaking, in the sense that they knew they're going to make this remake of a game that so many people have played. And instead of just remaking it, it was like, listen, everybody's already played this. They already know the story. We're never going to be able to match those expectations perfectly. What if we do it where we change it, but it's like you had to basically have played the old game to fully understand the changes, and we're almost going to like wink at you sometimes. Like sometimes they made it where it's almost like it's breaking the fourth wall, kind of like, this is about to happen. This is what you're expecting to happen. And then when it changes, even the characters are like, huh, that felt weird. Or that doesn't feel like it went like it was supposed to, or something. Like there was all these moments throughout it where they're self-aware that the story is different. This isn't the exact same game. And it's almost being presented to us like, hey, you thought this was the same game. Look, it's different. And they're almost
and also
like,
how like they're
winking
tying
at
everything together too, like how they've tied the Dirge of Cerberus characters along
Yeah.
with the game now through the intermission DLC, which I just remember was the Yuffie DLC.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna counter that. I'm gonna go with what you guys have been talking about with him making like so many changes. As someone who never played the original Final Fantasy VII game, I think like from a remake perspective, like if we're talking like from a game perspective, sure, it could be a great game, but I don't know if it necessarily hits that remake, in the sense that, one, it's not even a complete game. Like you are gonna have to play the sequels to get it. I think also, like, I think that's one drawback to it from a remake perspective. Like, if this is supposed to be like, hey, this is the game you played before, we're going to redo it, make some improvements and stuff. I think the fact that it isn't one complete game might be for me, something that dissuades me from it. Second, the amount of changes that are taking place, I feel like there's nothing wrong with making changes to improve story or make some changes, but I think the amount of content that is being changed and switched around, that like even you guys have admitted, like you don't know what's coming next, moves it away from being a good remake to just being a good reimagining, as opposed to a remake. And the last part I have, and I've not played this game, so I can't speak to it, but one gripe that I heard is that there is a lot more filler in this game. And with going back to my original argument,
those people are talking about.
Okay,
I've seen that argument, and I go, you must not like this game then. So
for like, the thing I'm just saying is like, because this is like, I think something like a 30-hour game in what used to be a 30-hour game on the original PS1. For me, it detracts. I'm not saying it's not a fantastic remake, but I don't know in the true spirit. Like I think it maybe diverts too much away from what the original game was, and not delivering a full package in the sense of here's the whole game. For me, puts it a knock, and why I would give this to Link's Awakening, in my opinion.
Yeah, like
what's a better
the
remake?
argument. I've seen the argument of like, oh, there's a lot of filler in it, and there's all this. I'm like, okay, you must be new to JRPGs, first of all. But if I'm seeing the argument, but also someone who I will legitimately say I think the original is very overrated because I thought a lot of the story didn't matter and it didn't like do anything to really link me. Like comparatively, like I said, like there's a lot of characters in the original I do not care about. Like it doesn't ring true to me very well. Whereas with this game, and this is, and I'm talking between like disc 1 for the original is probably the closest to me liking the game the most. And this is what Remake was, the first part. It's literally that first disc. And for anyone who I guess says it's filler, I'm like, okay, sure, they added more missions to it, but most of them are optional. You don't have to do them. Like, if we're talking the story, I don't think there's really a moment in the actual linear story that feels like filler. It's just, I guess you don't like the fact that, you know, they kind of nudge you to go complete everything, and you're like, fine. And some of them happen to be a little, I guess, fetch questy in some ways here and there, but like, I don't think if that's the only thing I could imagine them referring to as a filler, to which case, again, that's optional. So I don't take that argument. I'm not like trying to blast it at you. I'm more just saying like,
no, I'm not taking it
I've
personally.
seen the arguments and I look at that.
I'm the JRPG
like,
king. You can't hurt me. Don't worry.
Like as someone who has also played like way too many JRPGs, I know what filler looks like. I've watched a shit ton of anime and I've played a shit ton of JRPGs. I know what filler is. 7 Remake does not have a lot of filler, and if it is, it's purely optional. You can especially if you play on an easier difficulty, you can run through this game way quickly.
Yeah, I still think I have the other two gripes I have of like not being a complete story and diverting too much from the original. Still puts me on Team Link's Awakening.
I mean, you could still make a case. You know, Chris and I could still make a case that whatever they've done now is sort of finite because it clears a certain portion that was coming out. Like they've basically like cleared out the Midgar story, and now it's time to leave and go see like what's in the future for us. Because really, the story just ends with you going, okay, so we now have settled our issues with like this faction that we were dealing with, but now we know what the new evil is. It's almost like we're now getting into Final Fantasy VII 2. Because it really does feel like, okay, this is the stop point. All right, now we're going to go ahead and see where our next journey leads us.
Yeah. I can definitely, like the whole, too much filler. I at no point felt there was too much filler. It just felt like the original game, you almost feel like it was rushing through that first 5 hours, like boom, 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 boom. This just took more of its time to actually flesh out characters and make you actually connect with a bunch of them versus just like, here's this person, they're coming with a mission. Okay, they're gone now. Moving on. Like it actually like fleshes out everything.
Like, for God's sakes, like I like the friggin' Madam M chick, like the one girl who gives like the hand massages. Like they give her enough time to make me go, all right, I like this bitch. She's cool.
Yeah.
Whereas like most of the time, like these people show up for, like you said, like seconds and then they're gone.
Yeah. Yeah. So I definitely can't agree with the filler thing. I did read also online, and Kaylan, like you mentioned, it's almost like it's not necessarily a remake, more of a reimagining. I do agree that there is a big argument there because it starts off like a remake, and it's almost like it goes from a remake to a reimagining by the end of it, because it does divert, but on purpose, not like they didn't do a good job. Like that was what.
Yeah, no, it was designed. It was the design perspective, but yeah. Is it a reimagining or remake?
Yeah, so I can definitely see people's like debating about that. And I don't think that they're wrong. I think that it's kind of like there might not be a correct answer. It's kind of like in your.
It's really up to you personally, right?
Yeah. The filler thing, I definitely don't think that's there. And it being multiple games, I can see how if you're somebody who loved Final Fantasy VII and you were going into this remake, you probably didn't care it was going to be multiple games because you knew that first part was being extended. And if they did it all in one game, it'd be like 120 hours and just go forever. And the game wouldn't have released for another 15 years. Like it would have been.
Yeah, like I've seen the argument too that people are like, well, I don't like the fact that they've split into games. I'm like, bro, Mass Effect.
Yeah, that's true.
Like you had to wait for another one.
Yeah.
It's like
And if
they
you're
just made Final Fantasy VII, and now you just have to wait for the next one. We've done this before. It's called sequels.
Yeah, and if you're a JRPG fan, you're already playing 9 trails of something to get to the 10th game like Adam. You're already 450 hours in.
If you're making your life difficult, if you want to be the true king, you just play one and then just take the title and start walking around and claiming it's you.
Yeah, he's the false idol of our
That's
JRPG
right.
kingdom these days.
He might not be false. He might be the real idol. He might be the real one.
I only have to play one to know that I'm the king. I don't need to, my title's absolute. I don't need to prove myself.
Sounds like something a dictator would say.
That's true. I can definitely see, though, newcomers coming in and being like, it's multiple games. That kind of sucks. And it's true. It is not great for newcomers.
Thank God the game is so good that it's okay.
Yeah, it might be that, like, say, Kaylan, you coming in, new JRPG king, you come in, you'd play it, maybe you'd love it. The gameplay, the story, you'd, hear the parts like, oh, it's kind of hinting at me, this is different than the old game. You haven't played the old game, it wouldn't matter. The story still holds up on its own, and you kind of just can go with it. You'd get to the end and maybe you'd be like, wow, I cannot wait to play the second one as it comes out at the end of this year. That could happen, but I can see a lot of people being like, wait, so it's only part 1 and part 2 is not even out yet and it might be 3 parts. I don't know if I want to invest in this because I don't like when Netflix does weekly releases of shows. I want to binge it all at once. Like, that is a personality.
I mean, my initial plan was to wait, and then I realized that's a stupid idea because this is not going to be like a 1-year process. This is a 3-year process. All right, fine, I'll play it. And then I was really happy.
Yeah, I definitely knew right away I was just going to get it instantly. But I'm also the type where I like weekly shows. I like having something to look forward to. I don't want to sit there and watch 8 hours of TV. I want to watch one episode and then wait a week and actually build the tension or the like just getting the anxious, like I want to watch this next episode, right? So I'm okay. I'm also that demographic that works very well with this kind of release. But yeah, I think me personally, I'll still have to give it to Final Fantasy VII, just because if I do think in my head, it's like number 1, Final Fantasy VII, number 2, Link's Awakening, and all of the remakes that we've all talked about. It's like those 2 for me will take the top spot. And if anybody believes FF7 isn't a remake and it shouldn't be on the list, then I'd be like
Link's Awakening. If you're going to consider that 7 isn't a remake, well, that's still a pretty solid number 1. So like,
yeah, exactly.
Having that as 1 and 2 seems like a pretty goddamn good 1-2 punch right there.
Yeah, I feel really good.
If we were doing like a gold, silver, bronze, like I figure based on like where we place, I think Resident Evil, whichever one you want to pick, falls into the bronze category probably.
Yeah, that's probably where I would end up landing. Yeah.
And like again, that right. And that's 3 pretty solid hits, and they're all 3 completely different games too. So like there's definitely a bit for, as IGN would say, it's a little bit for everyone.
Yeah. Awesome. Cool. So it's gonna be like you said, if Final Fantasy VII is our greatest remake of all time. I want to say thank you to Rebo for giving us the inspiration for this topic. This has been a great one. Ladies and gentlemen, if you have suggestions for the podcast, if you want to see an episode, have an idea for us to talk about, we'd love to share it. We'd love to talk about it. You could reach us wherever you get this podcast by searching for PixelPlay Podcast. But if you want to submit ideas, topics for the show, you can do it through pixelplaypodcast@gmail.com. You can also do it through Twitter and Instagram. Or you can join our Discord. All that information is in our link tree. Just search linktr.ee/PixelPlay Podcast. You can find us there with all our socials. Join in. We have awesome discussions. We've been right now talking about the Microsoft acquisition FTC case. That's been a fun little discussion in there, and we'd love to have you guys join us. Other than that, thank you guys so much, and we will see you guys next week. Bye for now.